Hello and welcome to today's session of the course. So we are continuing to discuss this iconic play, The Death of a Salesman. In the last session, we looked at some of the predominant themes and how the structure of the play is designed in such a way that the mood and the tone of the entire setting reflects in it. So we today begin by taking a closer look at the idea of the American dream and how it gets represented, how it gets reflected in the various characters of the play, particularly in Willy Loman, and how certain markers are predominantly found in order to convey this, convey how this dream manifests itself. So, American Dream is built on this fundamental notion that anyone, irrespective of their status, irrespective of their background, irrespective of the kind of privileges they have access to or not access to, anyone can achieve financial success and material comfort. Yeah, so it is essentially about, in Willy Loman's perspective, the way he approaches this notion of American dream is also about believing in a man who is charismatic enough, who is very well liked, and how he thinks that success will naturally come to him. It seems like something organically built into a man's persona, and we continue to use man here because the play hardly talks about how success defines a woman. So we will just stick to what the play talks about at the moment. So Willie seems to believe, very strongly believe, in this inherent quality of being very well liked, and well liked also translates, should ideally translate into material success according to him. So this is very much evident in the way he's evaluating his sons too. When they are very well liked in high school, he also believes that they will grow up into becoming very successful adults. And success is entirely defined in terms of the material comforts, in terms of the financial worth they are capable of garnering. So, this dream, there's no one way in which this dream could be achieved. And the beauty of this dream, as Willy Loman believes in it, and as he sees it getting manifested around him, is in the beauty is that it could be achieved through any route. There is no one set formula to achieve this, as long as one is in possession of this well-liked persona, as long as one is charismatic enough to impress the others, the route to success becomes easier as well. So we have this instance in the play about where Willie talks about his brother, Ben, who went into the wilderness of Alaska and Africa, and he really made a huge fortune after the discovery of this diamond mine. So this is something that Willie at some level regrets as well, that he chose to settle down for a lesser dream of becoming a salesman and getting success through that, because this becomes his idealized version of achieving this American dream by going into the wilderness and doing whatever it takes, which will reap material success. So there are also certain kinds of contrasting images, contrasting figures whom he encounters in his life, such as Howard Wagner, who inherits the dream. He inherits his father's business, and it is it also does not go down very well with Willie, because of his attitude and because of the way in which he is treated under the new boss. Yeah? So we find that this is in stark contrast to the to what the American dream projects, to what Willie believes that anyone can achieve financial success regardless of everything. Howard Wagner seems to be presented as this contrast, where Willie is also in some form in denial about this inheritance, success coming to this person as an inheritance, and he chooses to believe that his sons could be perhaps better off than that. And there are also these very juvenile kind of comparisons that he seems to be making. This is evident in one of those episodes where he lapses into former memory, when this time switch happens, and when we are taken back along with Willie to this the childhood situation, to the high school situation, when his sons are in high school, and where these comparisons are being made with Bernard, who is a very studious but very boring kind of a child according to him, but eventually he becomes a very successful lawyer. So we'll quickly take a look at this instance in Act 1, where in one of these time switches, he is with his sons who are younger. Willy Loman himself is younger. So this is how he talks about America at that point of time. America is full of beautiful towns and fine, upstanding people. And they know me, boys. They know me up and down New England, the finest people. And when I bring you fellas up, there'll be open sesame for all of us. So this is the kind of attitude that he has towards success, towards fortune. So success literally is like a fortune which will befall him. Because one thing, boys, I have friends. I can park my car in any street in New England and the cops protect it like their own. So, this is the value system which Willy Loman believes in. And this is a value system based on which he raises his children to. And as we come down a bit, a bit further down, he has this extensive discussion about how they are being seen in school. So he is asking the boys, what did they say about you in school now that they made you captain? There's a crowd of girls behind him every time the classes change. This is about Biff. This also corroborates well. This also sits very well with Willy Loman's concern as well as Willy Loman's hopes for his sons, particularly for Biff. And here's Burnett making an entrance over here. So in the present in 1948, Burnett is a successful lawyer. So this is how Willy remembers him from his son's childhood. So Burnett is younger than Biff. He's earnest and loyal. He's a worried boy, in very stark contrast to Biff, who is being, very well liked, who's very charismatic, and who's followed by girls at that point. So Burnett, Biff, where are you supposed to study with me today? Hey, look, Burnett, what are you looking so anemic about, Burnett? He's got to study Uncle Willy. He's got Regents next week. But Happy is, in a different mood altogether. He wants to box. And just before this, we find that Willy Loman had just got his sons a punching bag too. Listen, Biff, I heard Mr. Birnbaum say that if you don't start studying math, he's going to flunk you and you won't graduate. Yeah? So Willy is someone who does not want to believe in these warnings, who's not even allowing his son to take this warning seriously. He's just dismissing the notion that there's a possibility of Biff flunking in math. What are you talking about? With scholarships to 3 universities, they're going to flunk him? But I heard Mr. Birnbaum say, don't be a pest, Burnett. What an anemic, yeah. So this is the kind of impression that Willy Loman is giving to his sons. And so this really has a lot of bearing on the kind of people they grow up to become. They also believe that when they are well liked, when they are these charismatic figures in high school, no matter what kind of work they put in, regardless of the hard work, things are going to be fine with them. So here Burnett is seen as one boring, pestering boy who will never make it in life. And the unfortunate thing over here is that Willy seems to not just believe in it, he also articulates that in very clear terms to his sons. So he's having this discussion about Burnett after he leaves. And if you notice this within brackets, Burnett goes off and the Lomans laugh. So they are a team together. This family, they are laughing at Burnett together because they think that whatever Burnett is suggesting over here is clearly not making sense, because this is in stark contrast with the kind of value system that they believe in, the kind of dreams that they have, and the kind of promises they think the American dream holds forth for them. Burnett is not well liked, is he? He's liked, but not well liked. That's right, Bob. That's just what I mean. Burnett can get the best marks in school, you understand? But when he gets out in the business world, you understand, you're going to be 5 times ahead of him. That's why I thank Almighty. You're both built like Adonises. Because the man who makes an appearance in the business world, the man who creates personal interest, is the man who gets ahead. Be liked and you will never want. You take me, for instance. I never have to wait in line to see a buyer. Willy Loman is here. That's all they have to know. And I go right through. So this is how he projects himself to his sons. And he thinks that because they are blessed with Greek god kind of looks, and because they are very well liked, and because of their personality, which he thinks is very impressive because the girls are chasing them up in school, he thinks that they're really going to make it big in the business world, way bigger than Burnett, who is working very hard. So this sort of prioritizing of being well liked, of being liked for one's goods, for one's charisma. That is something perhaps Willie is also inadvertently doing wrong while pursuing his dream in perhaps certain in a slightly lopsided manner too. So Willie Loman, while he continues to believe in this dream, while he continues to be stay as being infectiously optimistic in his pursuit, he himself realizes at a later point, as his sons grow up, as he himself grows old without becoming anyone worth anyone worth noticing, he realizes that he has fallen short of the standards that he himself believed in. So, at some level, we find that these are the kind of standards that he himself had set for his family, for his sons, yeah, for his own, for measuring his own success, for measuring the success and worth and value of his family itself. So we realized that because of these the kind of slightly lopsided, maybe a skewed up kind of standards that he has, and because of the ways in which he has failed himself, and because of the way in which he thinks his family, his sons have failed himself, he also tends to ignore a lot of other tangible things around him, a lot of other little things that he is blessed with. He has his own house, but he fails to see the happiness which is there inside, the domestic bliss that he has. Instead, he complains that they are in these boxed lives. He has a good car, but he's also nostalgic about the car that he used to have, the kind of drives that he used to go in. So there's always this sense of loss about what he could have had, about the things that he could not have, about the kind of things that he could not achieve despite the potential that he, as well as his sons, used to show. So he seems to ignore the domestic bliss that he has. He seems to take no notice of his wife, Linda, particularly, who seems to be very forgiving, very accommodating, and very positive. She's a very positive presence throughout in this play, encouraging Loman, but he seems to be more or less dismissive about her, and he also ignores his children's individual ambitions. Yeah, so there is something fundamentally wrong in the way he prioritizes these standards way above what he has got, way above the little tangible things in life that he perhaps is really blessed with. So we find that two sides of the American dream are getting exposed over here. We are as the play unfolds, we find that this American dream essentially has two different sides. On the one hand, it could be seen as a vehicle of inspiration. It certainly urges people to move forward in life, to achieve material success, to achieve happiness through this pursuit of of a successful career. But on the other hand, it also turns human beings into commodities, because what's very, very important over here is that till the end of the play, we never get a sense of the kind of product that Willie Loman has been selling. What, as a salesman, what he sells is of less importance than how he does it. Because he is here, his failure to sell a commodity is not the failure of that commodity, but it's a failure of himself. It is about the human skills and the human life itself becoming getting increasingly commodified. So Willie Loman seems to be a person, and his family seems to be, by an extension, seems to be stuck in this in-betweenness, in this pursuit of the American dream. So we also increasingly find that as the play unfolds, and through the character of Willie Loman, and also through these various characters who are represented in this play, we find that the value of human life here is measured in terms of material worth, entirely in terms of the material worth. So, for instance, when Willie Loman is feeling very proud about the looks that his sons have, whether the charismatic presence that they are in school, he also expects all of these things to get translated into business terms. So that's how a person's worth, even his own son's worth, is being measured. So in the beginning of the act, in the play, we also noticed him lamenting about the kind of money he is making, that he is still not making sufficient money. While that continues to be important in taking their life forward, he also seems to to be unable to see the other kind of values, the other kind of things that are happening within the house. This evaluation of human life in terms of the material worth, it's not something that only Willy Loman is doing. He's being forced to do that, so to speak, because of these pressures from the world around him. And that is something which we find as being very frighteningly real in this play too, because there is no way in which Willy Loman can pull himself out or help his family come out of this box either. So this boxed life that he talks about, whether it's within his apartment or whether it's within his car, we find that there is very little choice for them, and they are forced to remain in this boxed life because that's how the system works. And this is also a critique of the systemic failure of the American dream to incorporate certain human values in the pursuit of this material success. So while it may not be entirely practical to take such a high-handed moral high ground on critiquing the American dream, what here the play is perhaps trying to foreground more than anything is the psychological trauma that Willy Loman is undergoing. So as we mentioned in the previous class, the time switches in this sense becomes very, very important, because out of all of these, the four family members, he seems to be the only one who is lapsing into this past. And what happens in this process is he's also dragging his family along with him into this past, which will never come back. And we do not even know whether these memories are entirely trustworthy. So there are some pointers in the Act 1 which we are to take notice of in order to make better sense of this play. So these are pointers of not just the American dream, how the American dream manifests, but it's also tells us a lot about the kind of life that Willy Loman and his family are leading. So we get to know that he owns a home, which is a wonderful thing, and it also it's one of the major markers of the American dream, the home ownership. Yeah, but Willy Loman is unable to feel happy about this entire achievement. Yeah, so the contrast here is very evident in the way that he seems to have made it. He seems to have ticked one major box when it comes to pursuing and achieving the dream, but he's also unable to feel entirely happy because as we have been talking about it, as he sees that as a certain kind of a boxed, limited life, in contrast to the more the freer life that he could have had in the middle of nature. So he is also his inability to sell is getting accentuated in so many forms throughout this play, throughout these two acts. And what becomes again and again significant over here is it's never the product. The product is immaterial. It is never about the product, which also makes it difficult for Willy Loman to place the blame on any kind of product. So there is something about the structure that we need to notice over here, that the structure, that the system seems to be infallible. The fault can never be with the product, but it is about the skill of the salesman himself. Yeah. So the system continues to be remain as very tact, very flawless, and if at all the blame falls on anyone, it will only be on the individual, only be on the human being. So here we find that there is a kind of system which is evolving as part of this the new capitalist structure, where all structures, all these institutions will remain intact irrespective of the kind of people who are chosen to play different roles. That's what becomes evident even when the company goes through this transition, which we get to know through Willy Loman's Laments, where the former boss's son who inherits the success. Yeah, it comes down like a betrayal to Willy Loman, because he does not have the kind of regard that he used to enjoy in his company in this setting. But it's never the fault of the system. So it always boils down to individuals, which also makes it easier in some form for the structure to continue existing with the same kind of rigor, with the same kind of force. So Willy's connect to nature is very evident when he wishes that he had chosen this bigger dream of leaving for the wilderness and making a life for himself. When he is lowering the windshield and temporarily, momentarily connects with nature, we find that there is an inherent desire in him to to move away from this urban setting, from this busy city life. But at the same time, we find that this connect is not something which is enabling him in any way. This connect seems very fatal to him. It keeps steering him away. It literally steers him away while he's driving the car. It is also acts as a trigger to it makes him forget that he's driving. It makes him forget that he's driving the car that he is driving at the moment. And it literally and metaphorically steers him away from his city life and from his job, and becomes almost fatal to such an extent that the car crashes are quite frequent, very recurrent. His car accidents are very recurrent throughout his play. So even in the play begins, his wife Linda, the sons, they all sort of wonder whether he has returned after this sales trip after having had another accident. So he's constantly in this mood of self-delusion as well, which is evident in a number of instances right from the beginning, where we find that he makes these contrasting statements about Biff. Biff is seen as lazy at one point, and immediately he says that no one has it. It's such a shame that such a hard-working boy, such a good-looking boy, such a charismatic person has not really made it big in life. So the self-delusion, the quality of self-delusion, this state of denial is also something which makes it psychologically more and more difficult for him. And the car accidents are also literally and metaphorically, they showcase his increasing age and his physical fragility. And he's also in some sort of denial about this the fragile state of his body and his mind, while his entire family, his wife and his sons, they're conscious of it. They are worried about it. They are concerned about it. But Willy Loman himself seems to be entirely in denial about the car accidents, which are the result of his deteriorating mental as well as physical health. So this notion of being well liked, guaranteeing success, that is something which remains at the heart of this play, complicating a lot of notions that Willy Loman has about himself and about his sons. So this is an extension of his self-delusion. This is an extension of him preferring a kind of an idealistic memory over the reality. So we find that Willy, at some level, continues to favor Biff over Happy. So Happy seems to be more or less sorted in what he is doing, but Willy's concern, Willy's disappointment, Willy's high hopes are all entirely about Biff. So there is a lopsided quality bordering on dysfunctionality over here as an individual, as a family. And we find that Willy also constantly lies to his family about a lot of things, how he was very well liked, and about the way his own work is being seen, and how there is a sort of a blame game going on, while he chooses to lie to his family in order to project himself well. So what becomes very important over here is that it's also evident in the way he's teaching his sons, the kind of value system that he is injecting them with. Outward projections are very important for Willy Loman. So he genuinely values the outward projections much more than the inner characteristics. So this becomes slightly problematic when he fails to see the worth of his wife, who seems to be genuinely concerned, who seems to be very forgiving, and who comes across as extremely supporting. And she's more like a character in the background in the family, who's ensuring that things are seemingly all right. But Willy Loman seems to be overlooking that at multiple levels. So for him, these outward projections, not just in terms of success, in terms of one's personality, that becomes more important. And this, as I mentioned before, becomes very evident in a certain, perhaps in a juvenile manner too, when he is dismissing Bernard's hardworking character, and he is preferring and even encouraging Biff's charismatic quality, his good looks, and he thinks that those good looks are to be valued. Those the charismatic experiences are to be valued, are to be prioritized much more than Bernard's hardworking character. And he finds it difficult to even presume that hard work can yield success. So there's something messed up, entirely mixed up about this notion of success, the guarantee of success that Willy Loman seems to believe in. And I also use this word guarantee quite advisedly, because Willy Loman's discomfort, Willy Loman's disappointment is also about something which was guaranteed going wrong. So this is also a reflection of the kind of material uh, systems that he is getting used to, the kind of the institutional infrastructure that he hopes to get reflected in his own life about a product guaranteeing something. So for him, at so many levels, his two sons are also like these products. They are displaying certain characteristics, certain outward projections, which ideally, under ideal circumstances, according to him, should guarantee these sorts of successes. But when that does not happen, it leads to massive disappointment, even leading to a deterioration of his mental health. So for him, more than anything, and the material comfort and the financial success is very important, and it also becomes difficult to justify, as we find that his family is not really after this sort of success. Even Happy and Biff, when they're having this conversation, they begin to wonder whether they were actually taught to pursue, taught to make money or not. Yeah. So he, in some sense, fails his family. He's conscious about the nature of this personal failure, but he would rather blame it on the system, which somehow failed to guarantee success, which somehow failed to give him the expected result, despite having the desired despite having the desired sort of ingredients to make this happen, like being well liked. Yeah, that becomes extremely important in his in the way in which he defines success, in his road to success. More than everything, that becomes the underscoring point, which will help him as well as his children to make it really big. So whenever Willie is getting lost in memories, and whenever he is regretting, we find that it's almost bordering on this feeling of regret. Yeah, that's why this becomes harder for him. This journey becomes really hard for him, because he thinks that he's settled for a lesser dream when he could have pursued a better dream. Yeah, which is why he becomes takes it out harder on his sons as well as his wife, because of the level of expectations that he has, and because of the kind of promise and the guarantee that they all seem to showcase to him a few decades back. So, in Willie Loman's memories, as well as in these 48 hours that we witness, or in these one day that we witness in Willie Loman's life, we find that Linda continues to be the supporting presence, the supporting wife, yeah, who's constantly encouraging him, who's also constantly trying to make him believe in himself. And sometimes, even when things are really going wrong, she's trying to project the kind of figures which would, cheer him up. You're doing wonderful, dear. You're making $70 to $100 a week, and this is his recollection from a past. And towards the end of Act One, we also find the entry of another woman who remains unnamed throughout this play. So in the next session, we will begin looking at some of these decisions that he makes, which where we find that he has betrayed his wife in certain ways, and his the way in which he is devaluing himself, yeah, reflects in these many choices that he makes as well. So we will end with this today. So I encourage you to continue to closely reading the play. I thank you for your time today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next session.